Since 2019, we've been traveling full time. We've filled a couple of passports, been to, I can't remember how many countries, all the continents. Well, I haven't been to Africa yet, but all the other ones. And about a year ago, I decided to start this channel. And I've come to realize that my setup is ideal for people who want a simple solution that doesn't look that bad and sound that bad either. People have seen the videos and they've asked me, how do I do that? How do I keep the production? It looks good. Do I have a lot of gear? Is it expensive? I mean, I'm traveling full time. So the issue with traveling is weight. Everything is heavy. So you're dealing with extra fees at the airport. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I do and how I do it. We're going to cover the stuff that's on the screen right now, and once the how-to part is finished, I have some stuff that I wish I knew earlier that I'm going to share with you, so stick around for that. So as far as what gear, let's start with the camera. What am I using? This is just an iPhone. I use an iPhone on cinematic mode. I have the exposure set to -1.3, and I have a little tripod and just set it up, and I try and find a space. We're always in different hotel rooms, so I try and find a space that's got a reasonable background. And depending, sometimes we'll have a suite and we'll have an area with a longer room, so I can point towards the corner. A diagonal always looks a bit better, so the things in the background are a bit more blurred out. But this particular room I'm in now, there's a big, huge TV in front of me. There's a bathroom over that way. There's a nice big balcony, and it's got a really nice sized window with not a blind, but like a curtain thing in front of it, which allows the natural light to come through. So I'm really happy with this sort of setup. The only thing is there's a bed behind me, but hey, I'm traveling full time. This is real life. This is what it is. So apart from the camera, which is my phone, I use my MacBook Air. I had a MacBook Pro a while ago, but this new MacBook Air is so much more powerful. And when I set these things up, I use the mode where I can screen share from my MacBook Air to my camera. So I can just adjust it while I'm looking directly at my MacBook, and I can just sort of see what it looks like, make sure it looks okay, hit record, and then I've got my notes and whatever on the screen here in front of me. Now for a microphone, I started at the very beginning with a little clip-on microphone, but I wasn't satisfied with that. So I grabbed this Rode NT Mini, really because I've been using Rode mics for years. As a musician, had a home studio years ago in Australia. Rode make incredible microphones. It just so happens that this is the one that I found that's a really good weight, not too heavy, and it sounds okay. You can sort of lean into it if you need to, but it also picks up everything it needs to pick up. It's great. It runs really simply through the Rode Connect app on my laptop, and then once all that's done, I can just export the video from cinematic mode. I can export the audio and then just match it up in the editing software. Next, lighting. With lighting, I've tried using tiny little lights. I've tried, because again, the travel issue. I can't have a really nice light box. It's just simply not practical to have that. I've attempted using umbrellas, using different types of things to sort of get a reasonable sized light box. But even something that big, it's still not good enough. It's still not very flattering, and it still points the light a particular way. So unless I can get a nice window, which is the preferred, absolutely. Just sit next to a window with the light coming sort of towards your face here. And there's a white wall that way there. If I can't have this set up, then I'll just get one or two lights and point them towards the white wall to try and bounce some light. If you look at some of my older videos, I've messed around with, sometimes I was in a place where we didn't have much sunlight. Places up north, during that time of the year, there's not much sunlight. So I had to experiment with using different lights in the background. And that's fine, but that light there makes all the editing so much easier. Now, when I first started having this idea that I wanted to film a bunch of stuff, start a YouTube channel, I was trying to figure out, how do you frame yourself? Like, you've got your screen and you've got your thirds, if you're familiar with that. And you sort of want to have your eye level roughly in the top, on that third line, give or take a little bit. That sort of seems to be like a great position. If you look at many other YouTubers, even watch TV and presenters of like high quality productions, where do the talking heads, where does their face sit? If it's a right up close, where's the eye line? If they're sitting back further, where's the eye line? It's often a very similar position. So just try and position your camera that way. I find that works pretty well. So I've briefly talked about camera settings. All I do is adjust. I put it on cinematic mode and adjust the exposure to be -1.3. That setting seems to work really well in almost all circumstances. As long as there's a reasonable amount of light coming through, it works perfectly fine. I don't bother with 4K. I really don't care. I'm more interested in getting something done at a reasonable speed, having the information be really good, and being able to produce it and get it out as fast as possible. Cinematic mode on this particular phone I'm using right now, I don't know which iPhone it is. I think it might be 1 or 2 years old maybe, but I think it renders out at, 1080? So I'm nowhere near 4K, but I don't think it really matters. If that type of thing is more important to you to render at a much higher level, you're going to need better hardware, you're going to need more storage space, you're going to need more time to render these things, and that's just stuff that's not really that important to me. All right, so let's talk about filming. When it comes time to filming, there's A-roll and there's B-roll. A-roll is this, me talking, and B-roll is, well, I'll put some B-roll on the screen while I say this so you get an example of it. I'm not too interested these days in putting too much B-roll together because I'm more interested in the information that's being shared rather than the production value of it. So when it comes time to filming, I'm really interested in just what's the script? Like, what am I actually communicating here? And I usually have a script. I'm going to be making another video next actually about how I do my scripting and how I put those ideas together to make sure that they're cohesive and that they give some value. Because I'm going to put it out next, I don't have a link for you, it's a good time for you to ask if you want to see that video. The best way you can do that is to hit the subscribe button. That way you got more of a chance to see it when it's actually put together, hopefully in the next handful of days. So other than the scripting, which I'll talk more about in the other video because that's its own topic, really when it comes down to it, I just want to have a place where I got the air conditioner off, I chilled the room down and then turned the air conditioner off. I've pulled the fridge out, I've pulled all the things that make noise and distract. My partner's away for a couple of hours to give me some space to be able to record some of these things here. And that's pretty much it. There's some sound happening outside, there's some construction. We're in Asia, we're in Vietnam at the moment. I mean, it never stops. The sound of Asia is the sound of a grinder and grinding tiles and steel, pieces of Rio. So that's gonna happen in the background and I don't really care that much about it. I used to care about it. It's not that important though. What's really more important though is having a setup where you feel comfortable. You've got your notes, you've got something to beverage. I have a mouse. I can just simply scroll my notes real easily while I'm communicating here and just trying to get this footage down. And I'm seated in a position that's pretty comfortable and I could do this for hours if I need to. I'm not going to need to, but the comfort thing I think is really important when you're trying to communicate ideas, especially when you're starting off because it's kind of nerve-wracking and you're thinking about all different types of things and you just don't need to worry about that if you're a hell of a lot more comfortable. Now, I want to talk about energy quickly, or interesting. I've got my notes here, energy or interesting. And some people like to come in, big bam, we're doing this, and they're going crazy on the screen. I don't really like that stuff. I don't like to consume that stuff. And I figure I'm making these videos it's part of what my business is. And I'm making them, I want to attract and hopefully connect with people who sort of see things in a similar line as me. So when it comes to entertainment, I like a certain type of entertainment and things produced a certain way, but I'll watch a Zoom recording if it's a good enough information. I really don't care about the production. So the production's just enough that I can feel satisfied that maybe I'm like tweaking a little bit of a skill set that I like to improve over time, but I'm not too stressed about it. So what's more important is just keeping the thing interesting. That's why I put a little bit more time into trying to make sure that my script is together, that my notes are together so that the story actually goes somewhere. So that if you're watching this still, we're actually going somewhere. We're telling some kind of interesting thing and you can take something away and you can think later, that weird guy, he was in Vietnam that time. I understood what he was saying and I can take a little bit of that and apply it to my own situation in my own world and hopefully get some value out of it and hopefully make things easier for you. Next up, I've got here, when you make a mistake. So with a script, it's very tempting to try and just read the script and then try and memorize and say the script and then you screw some up and then you try and say it again. But let me give you an example. I can just read this here and I'm going to just give you an example of how I do it. What you want to do is you want to be able to talk. You might stumble over your words and say something you don't mean to. Just pause, keep the same expression, check your notes. And if you hold the position while you're checking your notes, you can start again. And there was only like a tiny little cut then. And that's kind of what you want to be able to do. Simple edits. If you're waving your arms around and you're just freestyling like this, the chops will look a little bit weird. So just a simple little bit of forethought like that makes it a little bit easier to consume for the viewer. Don't be afraid to go off script or just use bullet points. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Some people do it really, really well. I like to have the important things scripted. So the intro, maybe the outro, or if I have a particular part that I think is really important to make sure I say it succinctly, then I'll script that out and make sure I say that correctly. Otherwise, there's bullet points all the way through where you can just sort of riff. And that's how I like to do it. Okay, process-wise, once I've recorded the A-roll and I'm pretty happy with the way it's done, I think I've got everything. I might have maybe remove the microphone and maybe just sort of like gone through a couple of positions to see if I can get in my notes. I might say, well, this particular thumbnail, I just need to be smiling in it. So I'll just sit here and smile. And then later on, I can just screenshot that as the thumbnail. So you just make sure you get that footage. If you're not really concerned about doing that, just take a thumbnail. No one really cares. Doesn't really matter if you're doing education stuff like this anyway. So once that's done, stop the audio, stop the video, make sure it's correct. So just play it back a little bit. And if you're happy, it worked, save it, send it all back to a folder somewhere on your computer. Mine backs up automatically to the cloud. And once you've got that done in your folder, then you can now end your recording session and then you can edit it later on. Whether it's tomorrow or today doesn't really matter. Now, a quick note on editing software. I use DaVinci Resolve because years ago, I was editing a video for my Facebook group, and it was two different videos, and I wanted to make sure the color was corrected. I couldn't find any software to do it, and I found this software called DaVinci Resolve. Turns out they have an incredible editor, like state of the art, of course, world class. I've come to learn. But also their audio editor is like fantastic, studio quality. It's incredible. So I've just started using that for everything. Now, you can use it too. It's free, which is mind-boggling that something so incredible is actually free. The only thing is, there's a little bit of a learning curve. Now, if you're the kind of person that, you like learning curves, you'll love it. It's incredible. It's so powerful. And so you can do so much with it. And it's free, as I said. Now, with that, if you want me to do a bit of an in-depth video on just how I do it, my process, you can see my templates and how I do all the titles and all the rest of it. If you want that, just ask in the comments. I'm more than happy to put something together. Once that is done, I've got my content done, I've got it recorded, I've edited it, I've chopped it together, and I put some titles together. I then export a mix. I take that mix and I stick it on my phone. I send it to my phone and I'll take my headphones and I'll go to the gym and I'll try not to think about it. I'll go for a walk and just give myself a break for like an hour. Once I've had my break, I press play, put one earphone in only maybe, or maybe the other, whichever one, or just have it from the speakers. I want to hear it like the person's going to use it. And then once I've gone through that process and heard it, then I'm happy, great. If not, I'll make a tweak to the edit. Otherwise, if it's good to go, we go straight to YouTube. We're not making feature films here. I'm not doing something here that's it's an incredible piece of art this is an education thing. As I said, I'm happy to view Zoom recordings. So I'm sure people watching this kind of feel the same way. They just want the information to be good. Now, I said I was going to get into some stuff that I wish I knew earlier. So here we go. Number one, getting a decent looking end result almost always starts with having a nice natural lighting. I've tried and will keep trying to use lights as I don't always have good lighting, but nice natural light next to any window, it's an easy solution to a great finished result. Second, outside noise matters, but not that much. People don't expect us to be in a studio when you're watching these YouTube videos, so simple noise reduction can work wonders if you really get into trouble. The most important thing is have a nice microphone and just don't turn the level up too high when you're recording it, because digital distortion is really harsh on the ears. Third thing I wish I knew earlier was that props work, and they'll mean physical props, and they'll mean that you don't have to add as much stuff later in the edit to keep it interesting. So if you've got like a little whiteboard, you can just hold the whiteboard up, or I've done videos where I've had notes and I've just written notes and just hold the note up to the screen, or I'll hold the thing and actually look to it and refer to it. Just something happening on the screen, a physical prop. I move the Coke can over here, anything at all. It just makes it a bit more interesting. You don't have to add stuff later, add as much B-roll. All right, this one's about teleprompter. People can look weird when using teleprompters, and I just think it's better to make mistakes and stumble over your words, deal with the edit later or not. This just humanizes you. Teleprompters can make us feel distant from the person that we're watching on the screen, and it doesn't really work that well to create a human connection. Charge your gear. I've been stung before having to charge my gear while I'm filming. If you have to do that, especially if you're using a phone, it will overheat. It can overheat if you're filming for longer than 15, 20 minutes, and then it might just stop recording, and then you've just wasted a whole bunch of time, and then you've got to reset, and it's just a mess. So make sure all your gear is charged, including if you're using lights. If you're using lights, I think it's better just to actually plug them in straight into the USB-C, whatever it is. That way you don't have to deal with lights that will, of course, change as the filming goes on. Again, with lights, if you must use lights, use a few small lights spread out behind either a sheet, if you can get your hands on a sheet that you can hang up, or against a nice white wall. Have the light towards you and to the side, up on the 45-degree angle. That's where you want the light coming from. That looks best on most people's faces. Not straight on. Don't sit straight on, and don't sit with the lights behind you directly either, because your camera will have a struggle to be able to focus and get the exposure correct. For me, another mistake that I made was trying to record in the morning. So recording in the morning sucks for me. Skin tones are all wrong. My voice isn't really warmed up. My mind's not really in the mood for it either. So I no longer block time to record in the morning. And that might be the same for you. I've asked other people about this and they're like, yeah, I record much better in the afternoon when I've had some time to think about how I'm going to do it and how I'm going to approach it, and a bit of time to bring up some energy so that I have something to share. But that leaves the morning open, and scripting and ideation and packaging in the morning works really well for me. So my brain seems to like working on that stuff early in the day and putting together scripts, putting together ideas, titles, thumbnails, all that stuff is really good to do in the morning for me anyway. Number 10 here, I've got, don't worry about what other people think. Worrying about what people think usually makes the recording part take a lot longer, because you've got this thing in the back of your mind where you think, where you second guess yourself and you worry too much about what you look like, what you sound like. Don't worry about that stuff. It just makes recording take a lot longer, and you have a lot more footage to sift through. So editing takes a lot longer as well. The whole process becomes burdensome, and your chances of being consistent and your chances of putting out content on a regular basis sort of just get lower and lower. The last one I have here is about the videos you create. Some videos are for you. These are the fun ones you're passionate about. Often these don't do that well, and that's okay. But some other videos are directly for your audience, and these ones can feel more like work, but often get better results. Whatever videos you're working on, what I wish I knew earlier was that as soon as the video is made and published, the best thing to do is to move right on to making the next video. Whatever ideas you got cooking, just move on. Don't dwell too much on what's been done and what's going out there at the moment. It can really mess with your mindset, and ultimately, it doesn't matter. Making video is difficult. It's fun, it's challenging, and it's very rewarding. I'm also working on another video right now about the pros and cons of having a YouTube channel for business. So make sure you're subscribed, and if you're interested in that one too, it'll be coming out in the next few days. If you're new to this idea about making video, or curious about your own YouTube channel, starting one, or maybe you're just new in your journey, I had a video together a while ago about my own YouTube journey and my experience so far. I think you'll enjoy it. It's up next. I'll see you in the next video.